Welcome back to another Market Monday, the video series where I go through and check all the prices in the auction house for a reference guide for future releases of NHL Hockey Ultimate Team. So let's get into September 22nd's market and what we're looking at and the changes that we saw week to week. So this is the first normal week of the game, I would say. Last week it was worldwide launch. The week before that was early access. So this is really where we're starting to see prices kind of fall into where they're going to be for a majority of the time until there's some big shakeups. A couple things. We'll start with icons. That's where we started over the last 2 weeks. So at this time, last week, there was 182 total icons on the market. We're down to 110. I think there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, a lot of people are buying up the cheaper ones like Chris Chelios or maybe Chris Pronger, for example, and then they're making the more expensive ones, but more on that in just a little bit. So we're down 70 total icons, so it'll be interesting to look at their total prices, but these are able to be crafted, so I think that definitely plays into that. Now, last week, you could buy essentially all of the icons that are not Sakic and Coffee for 75,000 coins. Solani and Fedorov were both listed under 75,000 coins, and we're starting to see a pretty big shift in that. That is no longer an option. So the non-Fedorov, Sakic, Solani, Paul Coffey icons are still relatively cheap. They are far cheaper to just buy on the auction house. For example, Chris Pronger is under 50,000 coins. He's become a little bit more relevant just because of the meta of the game. We're starting to see a really passive meta. The stick checking is just an absolute mess. So him with elite stick 'em up as well as truculence is just a good combo, and you can pair him with some other cards as well to get some line combos. But nonetheless, we're starting to see a little bit more expensive prices for the other cards. When it comes to Solani specifically, we're starting to see his price finally start to come up. I think early on, the reason why he was falling so much in price was because everyone that pre-ordered the game, I would say probably 70% of the hardcore HUT players all took Solani. In my opinion, he's still one of the best cards in the game, if not the best. So 90,000, right around to the high 80s. He's starting to creep up a little bit. Like I said, he was going for under 75,000 coins last week. And the exact same thing for Fedorov, right around 90,000 coins. There's only 13 now up on the auction house. So it looks like people are starting to realize that he's remaining one of the best cards. And for all the people that did not pre-order the game and pick Fedorov, they're starting to go out and acquire him. It is still far cheaper to buy Fedorov and Solani than it is to make them via Alumni. So I have a feeling that we're going to start to see these prices start to climb just a little bit. Now, when it comes to making the icons, you will need 83 to 85 overall Alumni player items. And last week, they were going for 22,000 coins. So we're starting to see an increase in these Alumni cards as well. I think, again, a lot of that has to do with people trying to chase Paul Coffey and Sakic, so that really doesn't surprise me. But they've shot all the way up to 28,000 coins, which is a massive 6,000 coin increase week over week. Again, we're starting to see people that did not spend money on the game or have pre-order pack points available. So the normal no money spent player, casual player is starting to acquire these cards to make the icons, and there's just not as many being pulled. Now, you can also make an 83 overall Alumni player item by trading in an 81 or 82 overall Alumni item. These were going for 8,000 coins last week, which was actually quite a big drastic increase, and obviously now they have gone up in price quite a bit. You can acquire them, though, for just under 10,000 coins, so a 2,000 coin increase per 81 to 82 overall, which is, again, a pretty big jump. To put that in perspective, that means it's about 30,000 coins to make an 83 overall. You would need to do this set 5 times to make an icon. That's 150,000 coins. Now on to the heroes. Last week, there was only 23 total hero items. This week, there's only 21. So for whatever reason, these are still very rare to see pulled. There's just not a lot hitting the marketplace at all. And I don't understand because they are lower rated in overall than icons, so just not really understanding that one. Now, when it comes to making a hero item, you are going to need 5 81 to 83 overall items, which means they at going for 10,000 coins per. They're now up to 50,000 coins to make one of the hero items. You can also make an 81 overall by trading in 79 to 80 overall Alumni. And those are going for around 3,500 coins, so up 500 from last week per the 79 or 80 overall. So we're starting to see a pretty big increase week over week in the cost of items used to actually make the top tier cards, which again was surprising early on that it wasn't happening, but I think that was more due to more people actually pulling cards from packs, and now it's starting to dry up. The last thing, when it comes to the more popular heroes like Naslin, for example, there's only one up for 80,000 coins. He was 60,000 last week, but there's just so few on the market that it really doesn't have any impact. Chara is also going for right around 65,000, so they're really settling in, and that's because they're used in the line combination. So I think if any of these cards get more uses in terms of line combos, I really don't know how, because a lot of the line combos can utilize these cards. Maybe they go up even more, but there's just not a lot of many on the auction house, and I think that's because maybe everyone is making alumni to make icons. They're not really making heroes. I'm not sure. Now on to the Check My Game event. We finally got the week 2 release, including Pasternak and Austin Matthews. When it comes to just buying the 82 to 84 overall cards from the event that you need to make the master set items, if you wanted to go that route, these are now going for 20,000 coins per. These were 16,000 last week for each of the 82 overalls, so an increase of 4,000 per, which means that for just the event items required to make a master set player, you're paying an extra 12,000 to make it untradeable. When it comes to the 82 overall cards, you'll also need 2 of them. They're going for about 9,000. Last week, they were going for 8,000, so another 1,000 coin increase. So in total, it's now 14,000 coins more expensive to buy everything on the auction house to make a master set player item. You're looking at about 78,000 coins to make one of the master set player items by going that route. When it comes to the 78 and 79 overall cards that are used to make the 80 overalls, if you were to go that route, they've jumped up to 1,700 per. Last week, both of these were going for 1,400. That's a pretty big jump for the lowest cards that are needed for sets, but it's still far cheaper to go this route, buying all of these 78 or 79 overall cards at this price to make the cards required for the master set player item. So if you were looking to make Pasternak or any of those, it's still far cheaper to go this route than to just buy the stuff required at the end. Now, when it comes to the master set items from this release, there really isn't any on the auction house. It's almost all of the European cards, and these European cards are extremely expensive. They aren't able to be made, and they've got some pretty big bonuses if you can get all 3 of the forwards or both of the defensemen, for example. So they're just very expensive. Carlson and Pasternak are 2 of the most sought after cards from this release, and the cheapest one that you can buy now is 220,000 coins. Burns is going for, under 80,000, so his price dropped quite a bit. He was going for around 100 last week, so it looks like master set player items that are tradable are just not going to be available or as available in prior years. It looks like everyone's just making the cards required and having the event items be untradeable. All right, now on to some of the specific cards that were very expensive at the launch of the game. I'll do this for about another 2 weeks, and then we'll switch up the cards looking at them, but Troy Terry was one of the most expensive cards at early access simply because he was used in that triple duck line. He is still one of the highest rated ducks, or the highest rated duck. So last week he was 40,000 coins. The week before he wasn't even available in the auction house, and he's kind of held his value right around 36,000 and above. So kind of interesting. Again, looking like that is starting to level off. Now, McTavish had a massive drop. So he was 34,000 coins last week, which was down from 50 before. He's going for like 24,000. So again, chasing after the cards right when line combos drop has an expected outcome. As they release more cards, these early on items are just really going to crash in price. When it comes to Teravainen, he was going for 50,000 coins last week, and he's actually starting to come down. But I think that's because there are quite a few options for that other Blackhawk in the most common line, which is Ronak, Solani, and then another Blackhawk. Like Burakovsky, you could go Donato as well, so I think that might be why he's starting to fall in price just a little bit. When it comes to Ryan Donato, he was 33,000 coins, and he's almost gone up in price. So that's kind of interesting, just not a lot of Ryan Donatos on the auction house. And then lastly, you've got Connor Bedard, who again is falling in price to about 11,000 to get his card added in. So he fell from 30,000 week 1 all the way down to, just about 11,000 coins per. Now, a lot of that has to do with this captain card, probably. Now on to the most sought after cards. We've got Connor McDavid. Last week, he was going for around 260,000 coins. He has gone up in price. There is just not a lot of Connor McDavids available. The cheapest one is 288, so his price is holding firm. and that's probably going to keep going up until we get another Connor McDavid item. And that's really what has been the case normally throughout launches of NHL, but he was 260 last week, and now 288 is the cheapest. Leon Draisaitl has started to come down. He actually held his price at around 80,000 last week. It didn't drop from week 1, but now you're starting to see a few more options for the line combinations where he would fit. He's around 50,000 coins, so that's about a 30,000 coin drop week over week. When it comes to Nathan McKinnon, he's actually gone up in price again for about 200,000 coins. The cheapest on the auction house right now is 210. So again, his value is starting to level off. The interesting one is Cale Makar, because he was holding at 100,000 coins. He's now down to about 70,000 on the auction house. So kind of a big drop there for Cale Makar. There are a lot of good right-handed defensemen available. So kind of interesting to see. He also doesn't really fit a lot of the line combinations that are popular. So a big 30,000 coin drop on Makar. And then lastly, Nikita Kucherov, again, he is holding his price. Last week, he was 43,000, and that's right around where he is kind of staying right now. Again, like I said, I think that until we see line combinations come out that fit some of these cards, you're not really going to see any fluctuation because the overalls that are released are very similar. So it's not like we're going to see 87 overall cards anytime soon. So these 85s are going to hold their value longer in that format. Now, when it comes to the auction house, this is pretty interesting. Last week, the total amount of items in the auction house, 17,813. This week, it's all the way up to 19,659. So far more cards on the auction house. People are starting to kind of settle in, build their teams, and start to sell off everything. So a 2,000 card increase week over week. We'll see where that sits following this next week. That's going to do it for this week's Market Monday. I'll be back next week to check in on the auction house. Let me know some of your best pulls and deals that you've had over the last week. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.